Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you on this May 15th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And let me tell you something. I've got the bombshell. That's right, the big Blake Lively story. I'm going to be covering this first this morning. We've got Blake Lively and the accusation by Justin Baldoni's attorney that she may have tried to coerce Taylor Swift into deleting text messages, which is illegal as it's evidence in this court case, and possibly was extorting or pressuring her to release a public statement in her support. We're going to get into all of that first thing up. We're also going to discuss this Sundance lawsuit with Dave Franco that we meant to cover earlier but ran out of time. And then more on these just bombshell stories coming out of the government involving the government unwilling to talk about the MS-13 tattoo, the fake Photoshop from Albrego's hand that we covered here. It's absolutely wild. Plus, we have Ben from Ben and Jerry's, the ice cream, right? Those Vermonsters up there, actually disrupting a congressional hearing to support the innocent lives in Gaza and those that are starving. I'll share that. Plus, more on the Medicare and the Medicaid cuts, what this means for the 13 plus million people that may be losing their health insurance. All these stories and more, starting off with the Blake Lively story right now. I don't even know how to properly hype this. If what Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, is alleging is true, this is the biggest and most insane update to the Blake Lively story. We're going to break it all down. It's all over the news. Blake Lively threatened to leak Taylor Swift texts if singer didn't publicly support her, claims Justin Baldoni's lawyers. So rather than read snippets, let's just get into the whole meat and potatoes of it. This was written to the judge. Now, Blake Lively's side is going to try to get this letter completely thrown out of the lawsuit, saying this is irresponsible, it's wrong, whatever. But if there's anything to this letter, if the evidence does come out, bombshell. The Wayfair parties anticipate that Venable's motion to quash will be mooted in short order as their counsel and Venable are conferring in good faith. So Venable is one of Taylor Swift's lawyers. So this idea that they won't need the motion to quash because they'll be negotiating, really not a good sign for Blake Lively. However, the Lively defendants' insistence that the subpoena seeks irrelevant information is wrong. The subpoena aims, buckle up folks, to obtain discovery relating to witness tampering and evidence spoliation. Specifically, the Wayfair parties' counsel are informed and believe, based on information from a source who is highly likely to have reliable information, that 1. Miss Lively requested that Taylor Swift delete their text messages, and 2. Michael Gottlieb of Wilkie Farr, counsel for the Lively defendants, contacted a Venable attorney who represents Miss Swift and demanded that Miss Swift release a statement of support for Miss Lively, intimating that if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released. The Wayfair parties' counsel are further informed and believe that a representative of Miss Swift addressed these inappropriate and apparently extortionate threats in at least one written communication transmitted to Mr. Gottlieb. It is those communications that the Wayfair parties seek to obtain by way of subpoena, as they would evidence an attempt to intimidate and coerce a percipient witness in this litigation. Now, this would line up. We saw the text message between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, where she said, "I'm Khaleesi and these are my dragons. You want to be on my good side? Great. You're on my bad side. Not good, right?" And is this Blake Lively trying to strong-arm Taylor Swift and say, hey, if they take this thing to court, if this thing goes to trial, they're going to subpoena you. They're going to see all of our dirty laundry. Is this Blake Lively trying to sink Taylor Swift and pull her down with her? Or is it more nefarious than that? Now, if this isn't true, we would expect to hear an update by Blake Lively, by Taylor Swift, which I don't think we'll see coming. So yeah, everyone's reporting on this very important moment where they say, it looks like they're going to resolve this issue with Venable since the two sides are negotiating in good faith. You never want that. If you're on one side, you never want the other sides talking to each other because you can't keep your lies straight in that case. Now, before I respond with what Blake Lively's attorney says, denying all of this, I wanted to share Not Actually Golden on TikTok, their response, because, as we all follow this case, there's so many characters, and when you get such bombshell information, you want to go, like, is this as insane as I think? And I always kind of look at what the lawyers think. Lawyers that have covered tens, hundreds, thousands of cases. They've spent years litigating everything under the sun. They've seen it all. What do they have to say about this kind of crazy coercion that might be happening?
I know I'm always telling you guys that things happen in litigation and it's not a big deal and whatever. This is not normal. This is a very big deal, if it is true. The gossip people are going to go nuts, and for once they might actually have a reason to. And I'm going to keep thinking on it, but I just can't think of anybody else who would tip them off to this except Swift. And now I'm rethinking that whole argument or that whole statement that was put out last weekend, and why did she tell us about it, and what was she getting in front of, and it's all, going around. But
now I want to say I'm not taking credit for this because we didn't create the initial content, but several days ago we shared this new subpoena for Taylor Swift's attorney, which seemed super out of the blue, right? It came out of nowhere, and we shared some initial theories that people had that, hey, is Taylor Swift talking? Whenever there's court cases, you always wonder who's going to flip, who's going to want to get out of this or throw someone else under the bus. Well, Taylor Swift has every reason to throw Blake Lively under the bus, right? Their relationship can't be trusted anymore because Taylor Swift knows of the Khaleesi dragons and all of that. She doesn't clearly believe Blake Lively as far as we can tell, because wouldn't she have stuck up for her friend in this moment? So either way, here's the response from Blake Lively to the judge literally immediately after this came out. And Not Actually Golden is right. This is like a feast for the gossip rags, but why shouldn't it be? This is beyond crazy what's going on. So they say it should be unnecessary to respond to anonymously sourced, baseless allegations, reckless leveled without any supportive evidence. It is worth stating for the record, however, that each of the allegations in the Friedman letter is unequivocally and demonstrably false. They go on to say that her letter did not merit or warrant any response from Mr. Friedman, let alone one that purports to manufacture a conspiracy theory in order to obtain communications from opposing counsel via a third party. So essentially what Blake Lively's side is arguing is he responded, Brian Friedman, with stuff that didn't show any evidence whatsoever. And kind of, I'm not a legal expert, but isn't that the point? Justin Baldoni's side, Brian Friedman, is trying to get that subpoena because he has one very specific piece of information that he wants. One very specific email where Taylor Swift's side, Mike Gottlieb, responds to Mike Gottlieb and says, "You're not going to shake us down." Nobody shakes Taylor Swift down. The apparent intent of the Friedman letter is to launder scandalous and defamatory allegations about Miss Lively and opposing counsel into the press by abusing the court's docket and avoiding the order requiring attorneys in this case comply with Rule 3.6 of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct. The letter appears on the court's docket at 1:50 p.m. Media outlets began publishing stories concerning the Friedman letter, including one that posted a 40-plus paragraph article at 1:55 p.m. that asserted as a fact that Miss Lively threatened to expose Taylor Swift's private texts unless she publicly sided with her and Justin Baldoni's feud. So I'm going to try to take a centrist view here of what might have gone down. I'm not sure I believe it, but as you guys know, we like to cover, anything that might have happened there. Oh, 1 second. Let me finish this letter. The court should promptly strike the Friedman letter from the docket to avoid exactly the result it presaged at that initial hearing. Presaged, of course, meaning warned thereof. So I'm going to get into a very sort of neutral thought of what people think might have happened, that coming next. Now, I'm not so certain I agree with this, but I did want to share a more neutral opinion from the It Ends With Lawsuits subreddit. Here's what I'm guessing went down regarding Blake and Taylor's attorneys. Mike Gottlieb called the Taylor's attorney and begged for Taylor to make a statement in support of Blake. He explained that if a million Swifties rallied around Blake, Baldoni would understand he was doomed and would be more inclined to settle. Taylor's attorneys turned him down. Taylor wants no part of this. Then Blake's attorney pointed out, perhaps correctly, that a quick settlement was Taylor's one chance to prevent her text with Blake from being subpoenaed and made public. So maybe Blake's attorney wasn't really threatening Taylor. He was only pointing out that making a statement would be in her own self-interest, but Taylor stayed silent, and her silence makes me certain she was skeptical about the harassment claims all along. Now, this doesn't necessarily speak to what was in this initial Brian Friedman letter that clearly explained it in a stronger way, that it was apparently extortionate threats or, saying that I've got these text messages that will be released. It'll come down to whether or not this source of Brian Friedman's is correct. Now, if his source is Taylor Swift, they would have that evidence already. So it could be that they've got those emails ready to come out. And by the way, I don't know why they couldn't just get that without a subpoena. But again, that's why they don't pay me the big bucks, because what do I know? So here is another thread about why Taylor Swift is probably, I don't even want to say flipping, because was she ever on Blake's side? I mean, ever since Justin Baldoni's response came out, it seems as though she, like most people, have understood that Blake Lively fibbed, to say the least. Taylor did not provide immediate denial of this story. If Brian Friedman lied, Taylor's team would have swiftly corrected reports stating that Venable was collaborating with him. Taylor repeatedly emphasized she wants no involvement. Allowing claims of Blake threatening her or working alongside an alleged harasser to circulate unchecked contradicts her established stance in previous actions of openly supporting victims. Taylor's correction of false rumors. When Blake's team spread false rumors before, Taylor reconciled their friendship. Taylor's team each time refuted these claims. So you're seeing a lot of chess being played here. You're not seeing Taylor Swift comment per se. You're just seeing things getting leaked to the gossip blogs that are kind of correcting if Blake Lively tries to continue to use Taylor Swift as one of her dragons. They also say the implausibility of a setup against Brian Friedman. The theory suggesting Taylor deceived Friedman into believing cooperation was forthcoming only to later retract is implausible. Friedman would easily show their exchanges to the judge, clearly showing Taylor's intention to collaborate initially. Taylor has repeatedly and clearly stated she wants no involvement. Credibility of Friedman's information, suggesting Brian Friedman, a seasoned attorney, was misled by unreliable information about Taylor's cooperation, seems highly unlikely. And listen, as we shared earlier, we talked about this sham lawsuit. Remember that sham lawsuit? We talked about ShamWow yesterday. Well, it looks like someone else had the same idea as they are introducing the new Brian Friedman Sham Away anti-sham mop. It sweeps, it slices, it dices. So from sham subpoenas to Taylor Swift possibly having a whole new album. I mean, she can write some songs about this. She's going to get a ton of content. It's wildly interesting stuff. So we'll have to see. No public support from Taylor Swift. As far as I'm concerned, I believe what Brian Friedman's saying right now. He hasn't led us astray yet. If nothing comes of this quote unquote source he says he has that has all this damning information. If nothing comes of that, it's a notch against Brian Friedman. But if you're him, you don't want to hurt your batting average and just throw these things out there just to harm the other side. No. There will be more to come from this. All right, let's move it on from that, although I do suspect we'll have more today to talk about as this is ripping through the nation. Unbelievable stuff. But I wanted to get into another lawsuit here, or possible lawsuit. Alison Brie and Dave Franco face copyright suit over a $17 million Sundance hit called Together, and they're calling it a blatant ripoff. So they had a bidding war for their film after it premiered at Sundance. The suit filed on Tuesday alleges that the film is a blatant ripoff of Better Half, a 2023 independent film. The suit claims that Together steals the high-concept idea of a couple who find themselves physically fused together, as well as numerous other plot and thematic elements, including a near-verbatim reference to Plato's Symposium. Oh, come on, we all make horror films about being fused together and reference Plato's Symposium. Now, when it comes to proving copyright infringement, it does take some very specific specific themes, and we'll have to see if this warrants it. Either way, I guess we should have a viewing party of Better Half and Together. But yeah, we'll have to see. You can't do that, not in this country. All right, so I wanted to get into this story. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem refuses to admit to Rep. Swalwell the photoshopped MS-13 picture was photoshopped. So what are we talking about? Well, this is the photo that Donald Trump says showed that Albrego Garcia, the man who has been held in a El Salvadorian prison without any due process, the photo shows MS-13 on it. Now, clearly, it was put there as a reference point. It's about pretty much 100% of people understand that wasn't the actual tattoo. And yet, they can't even get Kristi Noem to admit to this. I'm going to say this. I've been saying this a lot. This Kristi Noem character, she's extremely bad news. Have a listen to this.
Madam Secretary, you agree that the letters MS and the number 13 in Times Roman numeral font, that they are doctored on this photo, right?
Congressman Abrego Garcia.
No, I'm just asking about this photo.
It wasn't based off of tattoos. It was based off an entire case.
And I'll accept that
case against him.
For the purpose of this question. You agree, though, that this is doctored. Is that right?
The same protocols that are applied.
So here we have Kristi Noem, fantastic at dodgeball. Can you believe that the elected officials we have can get away with this? I guess she's not elected, right?
I want you to have credibility, and I want you to be taken seriously. Is this doctored or is it not doctored?
I am taken quite seriously.
Is it doctored or not doctored?
The importance that the president has given me to do
I understand. Is it doctored or not doctored?
One thing that's important to remember is that every single time a case is built.
Madam Secretary, I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I have a bullshit detector. I'm just asking you, is this doctored or not doctored?
Sir, the protocols in the case built against
Can you answer the
Garcia
question?
Were exactly the same.
Madam Secretary,
I don't have any knowledge as to that photo you're pointing to.
Okay, can you show her the photo? Walk her the photo down there. No, that one. Please take a look at this photo. It was tweeted by the president on April 21.
By the way, who prints these posters? There must be a very lucrative poster printing company that they have over there in D.C.
It's been hanging out there for about a month.
So what is your point?
My question is the numbers and the letter MS-13. Could you look at the photo, please? It's right in front of you.
Are you saying Abrego Garcia is not a wife beater?
No, ma'am.
That he's not a criminal.
Ma'am,
he's not a human trafficker. And he's not a member of MS.
You vouched for Mr. Garcia when your team said, ma'am, you vouched for him when you said he was mistakenly deported. Sir, I didn't vouch for him.
I did not say that. He should have been deported. Absolutely.
It's so telling that you won't look at the photo.
And we will not be bringing
Was
him back
it doctored or not?
In staying here,
can you look to your right at the photo in front of you? Madam Secretary.
Now, I understand this is unbearable to watch. I understand this makes you want to veer off the road, but you have to hear what's going on. She's unwilling to deal with the realities of the situation, which is that the President of the United States doesn't know the difference between a photo that's photoshopped with MS-13 on a guy's knuckles and not. And this is important because Terry Moran of ABC News interviewed Trump, and Trump was blasting him for being fake news, for clearly trying to show what the obvious is. I mean, if this is like it's absolutely insane that this went down. And it's not the only, it's one thing after another with Kristi Noem, where they can't even get her to address things on a humane level.
So my ask to you, Madam Secretary, is the same that I asked the ambassador. Can we do a proof of life check on Andrew just to see if he is alive?
Now, this is a gay hairdresser. Now, why is that important? I mean, his sexuality is really not a big deal, but he is in a prison in El Salvador, and he has seemingly done nothing wrong. There's no evidence whatsoever that he was affiliated with any gangs. And here, the plea for Kristi Noem is let this man's mom know that he's alive and okay. Get him some legal representation. She won't even go there.
Congressman, we are utilizing the tools that Congress has given us to apply due process to individuals. We are doing that for every person, and we are making sure that we're following what you have given us as far as guidance and how things should be implemented.
Would you commit to just letting his mother know, as a mother to mother, if Andrew is alive? He was given an asylum appointment by the United States government. We gave him an appointment. We said, Andrew, come to the border, at this time to claim asylum. He was taken to a foreign prison in El Salvador. His mother just wants to know if he is alive. Can we check and do a wellness check on him?
Our asylum applications are different than the granting of asylum, and I don't know the specifics of this individual case. This individual is in El Salvador, and the appeal would be best made to the president and to the government of El Salvador on this.
And this is what's so ridiculous. Now they're saying, well, no, the president of El Salvador needs to deal with it. And then the president of El Salvador says, well, maybe President Trump needs to deal with it. They're making such a mockery out of people's lives. Any person who values our justice in our country, values due process. And again, due process is not just for American citizens, it's anybody in our land. This man had an appointment for asylum. The process didn't even get played out before they sent him away.
This is not under my jurisdiction.
Madam Secretary, you have said that CCOT in El Salvador is one of the tools in the toolbox that you have. You have said that and has been quoted as saying that. You and the president have the ability to check if Andrew is alive and if not being harmed. Would you commit at least into looking and asking El Salvador if he is alive?
This is a question that's best asked to the president and the government of El Salvador.
Oh man, honestly, I can't even use. I don't have access to the words. And I don't want to have to hit the bleep button to describe how much of a lowlife this Kristi Noem is. I mean, she's literally will go down to El Salvador, will take photos with her big guns and her nice Barbie, DHS outfit on, and yet she can't even stand up to the crimes that are going on here by her and her government. People are standing up against this. Now, this is a completely different story, but I did want to share Ben from Ben & Jerry's. Now, they sold Ben & Jerry's, so don't go support Ben & Jerry's over this. But Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's, he confronts RFK Jr. in Congress over the fact that there are starving kids in Gaza. And we'll just have a listen.
Members of the audience are reminded.
He's saying you're killing children in Gaza and it pays with cuts to Medicaid. Or excuse me, I want to make sure I get this right. He immediately gets arrested, and it startles everybody as he yells out loud, "Congress sends the bombs that kills children in Gaza and pays it with cuts to Medicaid." That's what he said. And then he's arrested right there. And as he's getting pulled out and really getting pushed around, I mean, I don't think they had to push him that hard. Listen, sure, they have, you have to have order in there and you're not allowed to speak up or whatever. But like, this is civil disobedience. Sure, he knows he's about to get arrested. He's going to be fine. But as he's going out, he continues to talk. Hands off Medicaid. He said, hands off Medicaid, Congress kills.
Ben, why are you getting arrested?
Someone said, Ben, why are you getting arrested? Here's his response.
Move down the hallway. If you stop, you will be arrested. Poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs and pays for it by kicking kids off Medicaid in the U.S.
Congress kills poor kids in Gaza. Hold on. Again, one more second. I want to make sure I get this right. Congress kills poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs and pays for it by kicking kids off Medicaid in the U.S. This isn't the ramblings of a crazy man. This is a very successful businessman. And this is a guy who's on the right side of history. This is a guy who is done seeing the images and the despair and knows that if enough people speak up, we can stop this. And you know what? I've thought a lot about this. And this isn't to say that it isn't a complicated situation. But, I share Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel says, no kids should be starving in Gaza. But then Miss Rachel also says like 7 times in a row, their hostages should be freed. And apparently, if you say these kids shouldn't starve to death, people call you anti-Semitic. They tell you they're disappointed in you. Oh, but what about the other side? The other side is also horrible, that there are people that are held as hostage. But the point is we can have actionable change today. So you know what side I'm on? I'm on the side of Miss Rachel. I'm on the side of Ben from Ben & Jerry's. I'm on the side of the mother effing new Pope, Pope Leo, who said the same thing. End this war. And also and by the way, It's great that we had a hostage freed this week. The last American Israeli hostage was freed. There's still Israeli hostages that need to be freed, and they need to do everything they can to free them. But they also need to do everything that they can, including raining down humanitarian aid. And people say, well, they're not letting that in. People blame Hamas, the terror organization. People blame the Israeli government. Well, the truth is there's enough resources out there where you could rain down humanitarian aid from plenty of different avenues, and some of it will get to the starving people in need. They need our help, and we're turning our backs to them. More on other news that we need to discuss. Trump's tax plans. Hold on to your hats, MAGA. People are about to lose their shirts. That's the title of this one coming up next. The new tax plan not looking good for poor folks.
And we see the next page in 2031. Anyone making less than $15,000 sees that. Check this out. I thought this was a mistake. I thought I was not reading this correctly. An increase in their taxes of 74.3%. And from 15,000 to 30,000 of 20.6%. Is that correct? Or is that, did you guys make a mistake, or is that
no mistake in the numbers?
So there it is, a 70% tax increase for the poorest tax brackets. And also, again, same thing that Ben was saying from Ben and Jerry's, you're taking health care away. You're taking poor people's ability to get vaccines and, go to the doctor when they're sick. I mean, what's that going to do for, a large segment of our population? Here's AOC in a heated exchange. She says, I will not yield to disrespectful men. And then she speaks directly to the camera. Have a listen.
Pregnancy is covered, correct?
May I interrupt? I'm glad you're addressing us instead of speaking to the camera.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Pregnancy is covered, correct? Speaking of where we are addressing and who we are addressing, there are 13.7 million Americans on the other side of that screen right there. Hello? Hello. I'm talking to you because I work for you. And they deserve to see what is happening here. Because there are plenty of districts, including Republican ones, where 25% of your constituents are on Medicaid. 40% of your constituents are on Medicaid. And yes, I am.
Will the gentlelady yield?
I am talking to them, and I will not yield because it was a terribly disrespectful comment, and I will not yield to disrespectful men.
And I honestly still believe, if I was a betting man and I'm not, that we're looking at the next president of the United States of America. And I say that because she's speaking to the people in our country that are getting robbed. They're looking for something like, $800 billion in tax cuts? Where do they think it's going to come from? They say they're not going to touch Medicaid. And now we're finding out that's exactly what they're going to touch. And it's the hypocrisy that people don't really like. Now, we've been talking, again, another side story, but we've been talking about the hypocrisy here and the dangerous situation at Newark Airport. Well, how about this? Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, remember him from Real World Boston, says he diverted his wife from Newark Airport, but it wasn't for safety reasons. Have a listen to this.
You diverted your wife from Newark Airport to LaGuardia out of a sense of security. So in general and in specific, that's not true?
No. With all the delays at Newark, my wife had to do an event, and she was in the city of New York. And so I did. I moved her from Newark to LaGuardia, not for safety, but because I needed her flight to fly. She had to get there. Now, someone had clipped some audio of that and made it seem like I was talking about safety. I fly out of Newark all the time. My family does.
Yeah, so I accept that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was breaking the rounds, and it was not I know where that came from.
But here's the point of the story, right? It's like, oh, your wife was flying there because she needed somewhere to be. You think all these other people are just flying because they want to have their thumb up their ass and they want to get measles from the guy coughing on them next to them? So it's just this entitled idea that that these people are above the law, right? These ultra rich people, they're going to get the tax write-offs. They're going to know that they can buy the dip when the tariffs come in, and they can just surf and coast because they've made enough money that they're on the front of this wave. And then you've got folks like AOC, folks like Ben from Ben & Jerry's, that are literally using what the only thing that they have, which is their voice, to say what's going on is wrong. And I have to be the same way. You know, for the very few people that are left in our audience that think, oh, Dave's got Trump derangement syndrome. How is it Trump derangement syndrome when I'm showing you the math between the illegal gifts that they're receiving, between the unbelievable corruption with the cryptocurrency scams, the grifting, and the lack of due process they're giving people, turning their backs on the Supreme Court? At which point am I the one with derangement? And at which point is it you? So that's it for us for now, but I don't expect anytime in the near future we'll be doing anything other than speaking to you and telling you the truth as it's coming out. We'll see you this afternoon. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.